Hello, you beautiful humans. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about right now, and hopefully keep it brief, yeah, yeah, is what weapons could successfully take out someone in plate armor. Okay, because plate armor is effective. I'm going to say it again. It is effective. Okay, yeah. If you've seen one of my other videos, I have a video of me fighting in all of this, in my padded jacket, and it I'm able to move in it. Okay, it isn't that hindering. It's designed to be fought in. Okay, it's like I may not be able to do that with my arm, but I can get into any fighting stance that I know of, and use my arms effectively. Same with my legs. That was the point of plate armor. So it was effective in that way. Okay, so that suddenly makes someone in plate armor harder to hurt because a lot of people think it's all cumbersome. They're like, oh, I could hurt someone in plate armor easily. I could fight someone in plate armor. It'd be easy. No, someone who's trained in it. This is, so there's that. Second of all, it's effective in the sense that weapons can't get through the plates. Okay, like I do a fair amount of metalworking. I do a fair amount of metalworking. I take a welding course at a technical college because it's fascinating, and also getting money for college is great. But anyway, I take a welding class, and I do knife making as a hobby, which I'll do a video about. I'm thinking of getting into armoring. I'm trying to get into blacksmithing. Um, so I know the properties of metal to an extent, and it would make absolutely no sense for a steel edge on a blade to cut through this. That would make no sense, okay? Because this is steel. Think about that for a second. Think about a kitchen knife and cutting through that. You see it in Hollywood all the time, but it's not true, turns out. Okay? So plate armor is really effective. They can move in it, and they can not die in it, especially. In fact, in the late medieval period, people were using shields like big, classic knight shields. They're using those far less because they didn't need them. It's insane to think that they had all this, they basically had the shield wrapped around their body. So suddenly they could take a whole bunch of hits and keep fighting you. And it's terrifying. Seeing someone in full armor would be completely terrifying. But anyway, um, let alone fighting someone in full armor. So the main way to get through plate armor is to get around it somehow, okay? Because you're not going to get through those plates. Not only are they steel, they were forged for specific thicknesses in specifically vulnerable areas. So even if you get into a thin area and somehow get something through that plate, it's not going to kill them or incapacitate them. Okay, so how do you do that? So what you have to look at first is, what are you trying to do to other people on the battlefield? Kill them? Yes. However, humans are resilient. Humans are very resilient. I'm a martial artist. I do historical European martial arts. I've taken karate. I study self-defense. Okay, humans are resilient. Um, it's so hard to instantaneously take a life. That's very hard to do, especially when they're wearing protective equipment. Okay, so what are you trying to do on the battlefield? Is you're trying to stop this guy from hurting you and your friends by hurting them enough that they can't hurt you anymore. Okay, that's called incapacitation. Incapacitate them, making them incapable of hurting you. Okay, so what would that be? That would be knocking them out. That would be giving them some severe blood loss until they pass out. There are plenty of historical accounts of that. Plenty of historical accounts, even in scriptures and things, they talk about that. People getting enough blood loss to pass out. Or understanding that, oh crap, I'm bleeding out, I need to get off the battlefield. So something like that. Breaking bones, these sorts of things. I'm sorry, it's really nitty gritty, but that's what it takes. I'm sorry, guys. This is history. I'm not condoning violence. Please, yeah, please don't hurt anyone. Please. Anyway, but so what you're trying to do is incapacitate this person. So how do you incapacitate someone in plate armor? Okay, so what that takes is a whole lot of force behind a relatively small object. So that would be thrusting with a spear, stabbing at them. Even if you can't pierce the plates, you can still send some force through them. That's kind of effective, but when you think of the breastplate, which would kind of bulge outward like that, they're not going to feel that. That force is going to channel to like their shoulders and hips, and they're just not going to feel it all that much. Okay, so you have to get around them, and that would be in the gaps. That would be in the visor right there. That would be in the face, because most of the time in close combat, they would have their visors up. The visor would be for arrows. Okay, so they would charge at the enemy, arrows are flying at them, they'd have their visor down, protecting their face. Once they engage with the enemy, close combat, they would put their visor up because it is more valuable to be able to see what's going on than to just be able to take whatever happens, right in the face. But anyway, so in fact, there are plenty of people in full plate armor wearing helmets without visors. So Hollywood might be right in that aspect. Sorry, it's just Hollywood and helmets. It's annoying. But anyway, so basically what you have to do is you have to get around the plates. So that would be under the armpits. That would be maybe under the breastplate if you can. That would be looking for vulnerable areas. Sometimes there'd be people with full plate armor with just chainmail on their neck. So you won't be able to cut their neck because chainmail is really effective. Once again, why would an edged implement be able to cut metal rings? Anyway, however, if you have a weapon, you swing it really hard, that will give them enough force to, hurt them quite a lot. So all you're doing is trying to hurt the person enough that they can't attack you. So that is a big part of it. But again, the plate armor makes that really difficult. So what you start to see when the plate armor is being used is you start to see weapons. This is a single-edged sword. This is my foam version that I use for sparring. Okay. This is more of a 15th century style, and a lot of single-edged European swords before this were a lot more cutting oriented, so you'd see this big wide blade. However, this is more of a 15th century version, and so there's more of a tip. Okay, so you'd start to see weapons that you can start getting in really close and trying to thrust these weapons into the under the armpits, in the gaps, in the articulations, under the gauntlet. So there are ways to do it. It's just really hard. Another anti-armor weapon is the poleaxe. So you'd usually have a hammer and or a spike along with an axe blade and a big spike on the top. All these things. However, something that a lot of people overlook as well is the dagger. The dagger is one of the best ways to get through plate armor. You just have to get in close enough to use it. So that is really the mentality that you should be thinking of. I can't tell you every way to get through plate armor, but that hopefully tells you some things about how to do it, what you're trying to accomplish. So that's why you see hammers, that's why you see a lot of spikes and spears and thrusting weapons, just trying to get a lot of force behind a small amount of object, a small amount of surface area, and then trying to get that between the gaps. So it is extremely difficult, though it was done. Most of the time, knights were just wounded and carried off in the battle. In fact, by the late medieval period, more soldiers died of disease than of enemy soldiers because they were so armored. But yeah, so that's kind of the battlefield mentality, and that's kind of some of the ways to try to fight someone in plate armor. I hope you enjoyed.